The Dominion defamation lawsuit against Fox News really could spell disaster for the network. And I want to walk through a few things. First, some legal analysis on that front, and then the newest bits of information we have about the trial, the defamation trial that is coming up. This is all in reference to, of course, the false claims that were made on the air on Fox News by hosts and by guests about the 2020 election, specifically about how Dominion voting systems played a part in the stealing of the election away from Trump, given to Biden. Didn't happen, but they said it. That's what's going on here. Starting off with Ellie Honig on CNN, a former federal prosecutor, giving some legal analysis as to why this is possibly devastating for Fox News.
We've seen so many of these damaging texts and emails from Fox executives and hosts in the case in which they acknowledge that the nonsense they were putting on their air and putting guests on their air sharing, they knew to be false. If you were a Fox attorney defending Fox, how would you feel going into jury selection this week about your case?
I'd feel queasy, Jake. I would not want to be in the position of defending Fox here. I think they're headed for a full-blown journalistic and legal disaster. It is very difficult to successfully sue a media outlet for defamation in this country. What you have to prove is what we call actual malice, meaning the statements were false and the defendant made those statements knowingly or with reckless disregard of the truth. Now, that's a very high bar, but here we have Fox's own texts in black and white where they call the election fraud claims, and I quote, nuts, insane, BS. And so you contrast that with the things that Fox said on air, and I think Fox is in a very difficult position here.
Now, the judge granted partial summary judgment to Dominion in this case. What does that mean? How significant is it?
Well, that's a big win for Dominion because the judge has now ruled as a matter of law and fact, these statements about election fraud were false. That's not even going to the jury. So the judge will tell the jury, I instruct you, jury, these statements were false. Your only job is to decide that actual malice question. Did Fox know or were they reckless? And so with that ruling, Dominion's really halfway to where they need to get.
So going into the trial, it's already established, obviously, but this is still significant for the trial. These things are not accurate. That's not up for debate. So then the question is just the actual malice component. And I've said in the past, I don't see how we could have actual malice if what the Fox News hosts were doing doesn't fall into that. I don't see how we have defamation if what the Fox News guests and hosts were doing wasn't just that. When we see privately they were recognizing how absurd these claims were, but publicly they were perpetuating them. That's as clear as it can get, right? And this trial is going to be huge ramifications moving forward for more networks and more media figures than just Fox News, and then also could be individually devastating for Fox News, not necessarily because they won't be able to handle the financial burden in a situation where this goes poorly for them, but also I do think this does a new type of damage to their brand, where in court it's being established they just spew lies once again. That's being established. But take a look at this quickly, a little bit more about the events surrounding the upcoming trial. The judge overseeing Dominion Voting Systems lawsuit against Fox News said on Wednesday that he was imposing a sanction on the network and would very likely start an investigation into whether Fox's legal team had withheld evidence, scolding the lawyers for not being straightforward with him. The rebuke came after lawyers for Dominion, which is suing for defamation, revealed a number of instances in which Fox's lawyers had not turned over evidence in a timely manner. The evidence included recordings of the Fox News host Maria Bartiromo talking with former President Donald J. Trump's lawyers, Sidney Powell and Rudy Giuliani, which Dominion said had been turned over only a week ago. So the judge imposing a sanction on Fox News and likely starting an investigation because they haven't been acting properly, bringing forward the evidence that they were supposed to. The only, I guess, positive thing for Fox News as we wait for this trial to take place is this, as Mediaite writes, Fox News won a victory in court Tuesday after a judge ruled that Dominion voting systems cannot discuss the January 6th attack on the U.S. Capitol during the upcoming defamation trial. At Tuesday's hearing, Judge Davis said bringing up January 6th during the trial would be too prejudicial and that the case doesn't revolve around whether Fox influenced the insurrection. Quote, that may be for another court at another time, but it's not for this court at this time, Davis ruled. Which makes sense, but it is interesting because that's a recognition that why would this be prejudicial toward Fox? Because of the way that they contributed to and set up the environment for January 6th to take place. They perpetuated the lies that the people who attacked the Capitol bought into. And so that would hurt them significantly, of course, to be bringing that up within the context of this trial. And it's not directly relevant to Dominion being defamed. But recognizing that in excluding it, that connection is definitely fascinating. So big stuff coming up. And of course, I'll be following it all